certain areas as being acceptable for growth. That's the first step that needs to happen. You talk about a starting point, Elaine. We're going to say that these areas are going to be acceptable, and they're going to end up on a map, and they're going to end up incorporated. That plan has to be incorporated into the legislative part, which is the ordinance. But it would depend how that's structured. In some situations, then it may be okay, we come in and we see staff, and this is where we want to build. Well, your plan and your ordinance says this is acceptable for this commercial type of development. Possibly it could be done with a permit issued by staff. Okay, maybe it does have to go before the board, or at the very basic, the zoning commission might have to become active and start hearing requests if we have a full-fledged zoning ordinance, which is one of the reasons why you guys don't meet is that we don't have that function in our ordinance. Your function basically is to decide whether or not we're going to make changes to what it is that we have and make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors if indeed you feel that's necessary. But in other counties, the applicant goes before the zoning commission, planning and zoning commission makes a recommendation to the board, board hears it, and then they act on it. That's pretty much how it's all working in Lynn County. But it's all done in accordance with the fact that this area was deemed to be acceptable to start with. There's some areas that are not going to be acceptable, and you're not going to see any development. But what you're asking is, could there be some areas? Yeah, there could be if you've done it in this proper way. But I think we've preached this or asked it for years. I've been a proponent of zoning for a long time. In our county, however, that's not been a real popular word over the years. There's connotations that come with zoning. And I'm not picking on any of you folks sitting in the chairs, because most of you are involved in ag, but the comments I've heard over the years when I go out into the field and visit with the farmers is, now you're going to start telling me how I'm going to do this and this and this on my farm. And they don't understand that you're exempt from most all of the zoning regulations. We're not going to come out and tell you that you got to get a permit to put shingles on your barn. We're not going to do that. You know, we're not going to tell you can't build a new barn. We're not doing that. You're exempt. What we're going to regulate is the non-agricultural uses still, even with the zoning ordinance. But they're going to go in proper places that someone else has decided what's proper, basically.
Mark, would you put it on record that maybe you guys would take a look at the current land use ordinance and see if there is, as a group, to see if there are areas that we could open up?
Well, I can tell you with pretty good honesty here, I've looked at that ordinance for 30 plus years. Larry mentioned the expansion of Lynn Co-op. That happened with an amendment, so that what we did is we said that if there was this existing facility that wanted to expand, and even though it was on good farm ground, that amendment that we made allowed that. Doesn't allow for Linco to go back out there if they were starting from scratch, but it allowed for the existing to expand because the Board of Supervisors was interested in keeping that business in our county. And so they asked me to make the amendment. I go to the zoning commission, the amendment was made. We came back to the supervisors and they approved that. That's how that process worked. It's still not, making some sort of an amendment in my mind doesn't just now all of a sudden say that if so-and-so on Highway 30 wanted to sell their ground, that somebody else could come in and do a new non-ag use. I don't think it's that simple, but that's my little brain talking.
I guess we were just looking for a review. Because our job is to promote economic development, so that's why we're here.
If I was going to tell you, though, seriously, that it all is subject to review. Your point is well taken. It's 1986. We're the only county in Benton County, or in Iowa, that's doing this approach. Does that mean that we're smarter than everybody else? I don't know that. I'm not going to say.
I just don't see us being very progressive.
It's not.
It's not progressive.
It's not.
If you're just going to stay.
The thing with progress is there's good progress and bad progress. I'll be honest with you. I already have a little preconceived notion about, I'm trying to have an open mind, and I will. But I farm. I'm not making any money farming right now. Do I want to farm more? Not really right now, because I'm not making any money. So what I'm saying is, I think this all comes down to a money issue and generating money to fund Benton County's government and the services they provide and everything. Where are we at now? Are we doing okay? Are we paying our bills? Are we being fiscally responsible? And if we make a change, and let's say we, what if we build a packing house here and bring in a bunch of low-wage jobs and low-wage workers that basically end up being a drag on our, economy because it's not the right kind of growth. There's the two sides.
Really true.
Not saying that a packing house that may benefit farmers, but is it going to benefit the Benton County as a whole? I don't know.
Let's use another example. UPS has FedEx, has a regional location up near Urbana. To your comment regarding farm income, there are a number of locals up there who are farmers. They would classify themselves as farmers, but they have off-farm income, and they have off-farm income because they have an opportunity there for off-farm income, and that helps them through times when things aren't going quite as well as they would like in their farming operations. I've worked with BDG and attended Highway 30 Coalition activities where we were promoting getting Highway 30 as a 4-lane, and our reputation, unfortunately, over the course of the last, 15 or 20 years, is that Benton County really isn't open for business, and that is unfortunately our reputation, and that may be for good reasons, okay, but I think it's worth a review. I think it's worth having a look at. Granted, we have opportunity in my part of the world around Urbana. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to, we are the only county that isn't zoned.
No, we're the only county that's doing this
Doing
particular
it this way.
with
Okay.
the land use. There are some counties that have nothing. And when this issue first came up, that was a comment that I made somewhat flippantly back to the issue about good growth and bad growth. I said, well, there is an alternative here, and that's just to have nothing. That's what we used to have, and that's one of the reasons, other than the legislature being involved in 1984 in this process, but that was one of the reasons we had some bad growth occurring back then, and the Board of Supervisors felt we ought to do
Are
something.
you talking nothing as in no rules?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have
So you
land
can
use.
just go out and sell and
You can go out anywhere you want.
I think Iowa County might be that way.
They are.
Yeah,
They
and,
are.
and they've got Victor Manufacturing in Victor. They have Kinsey Manufacturing. They've got Monsanto. They've got a lot of, for a very rural county, they have a lot of very good job opportunities available.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
2/3 of the counties in Iowa zone.
Some is.
We're one of the few that aren't zoned.
So I guess to complete my thought is that I think that there are regions in our county on the eastern sections that are suitable for residential development by CSR alone, if you want to use that as the measuring stick. And I think that there are other opportunities that could be mapped out fairly simply. Now, I don't know how you deal with the water and the wastewater. I think if somebody's gonna come in and buy a plot of land to build their business on, that's their responsibility. They gotta figure that out. And it's still the landowner's option to choose to sell or not to choose to sell. But I think it is worth having a look at to do generalized zoning that helps people understand, one, that we're open for business, and two, these are the areas, if you want to build a home, this is a geographically, and it might, pick the spots, but these are the areas that we would promote or we would support. Same way with commercial development.
Something that I wanted to add too, just for everybody to understand, is in respect to the housing issue. Something happened in our county in 2000 that I felt ever since, during that time and ever since, I felt was unfortunate. And our housing situation wasn't dictated by our land use ordinance. We were one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Iowa in the latter part of the 90s. And we had this very land use ordinance then. What happened to us is that there were a lot of folks that thought we were building too many houses. And the zoning commission in 2000 decided to make our subdivision ordinance one of the most restrictive that I've ever seen. They wanted central water, they wanted central sewer, and you had to develop on a hard surfaced road. The hard surfaced road requirement isn't necessarily bad when it comes to building houses, but the central water and sewer situation just plain and simply killed our housing development out in the county. Now, for years I've been listening to all of the folks that affected, and it affected a lot of trades in our county. The ability to build houses is economic development, by the way. I've always felt that it was great economic development. But finally, in 2011, I felt the time was right, and we convened the zoning commission, and the zoning commission came together and heard the argument about getting rid of the central water and sewer requirement in our subdivision ordinance, and we did that. However, there are still some requirements in there about having registered engineers designing some systems and things like that, which I'd rather perhaps wasn't there, but nonetheless it is. But we haven't come back from that. Like Todd said, our reputation changed such that we haven't bounced back necessarily. And we have some areas, and potentially some areas on down the line, that would be really great to have housing. The schools need it, but we couldn't do it up until 2011 at all, and still it's a little bit more restrictive than what I'd like to see. But I just wanted to mention that to you. That wasn't the land use ordinance that killed that, it was the subdivision ordinance that just plain and simply stopped it, killed it flat.
Since you mentioned schools, what's gonna happen when Cedar Rapids builds another school over on the new 100 goes there to the Atkins people? They're gonna vacate that Atkins or Benton community like flies off or whatever.
Well, you have open enrollment.
Yeah, they'll go to Cedar Rapids quicker than you'll be able to blow your nose.
They will. But if you open up for progression in Benton County, you could draw some of that maybe back. You know.
They come to Benton County, live in Atkins, because our taxes are